Hello and welcome everyone to this week's episode of Midgard Musings. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Jesse and I'm the host here on this channel every week, wherein I will usually discuss various heathen related topics, whatever seems to strike my interest at a time. We also run a series every month of deity discussions. You can go to the playlists on the channel and check out the first two deity discussion videos that are up there in that playlist. And then you can also check out, we did a Havamal discussion series, all kinds of cool stuff. So definitely become a subscriber if you haven't already. Down there at the bottom of this video, you'll see the red subscribe button. Click on that and then get your bell notifications turned on. So that way you're never missing a video, you'll always be notified. But anyways, before we go too much further, I'm going to go ahead and get our incense lit and our candle lit. This week's discussion is Winter Nights because we are in the time of year and season that is typically observed. So before we get too much further, like I said, I'm going to get our incense going. That's just a nice little thing I like to do here on the channel. And get our candle lit. Alright guys, so talk about winter nights here for a little bit. I have some notes that I'm going to be referring to, so just bear with me. I always like to have things written down. Helps me stay organized. Winter nights. If you're new to heathenry, you may be wondering what that exactly is, or what we're talking about when we're referring to winter nights. My candle just went out. Let me try and relight that. If not, we'll go candleless. I may be out. This one seems to be out. No worries. It's all good. Winter nights is an observation that is somewhat modern in its construct. We're going to be getting into that in a little bit. But it's basically it's a holiday or a feast that's observed around this time of year, around the middle to end of October, by most reckonings. And it's a celebration of basically the turning of the summer months and the autumn months and whatnot going into winter. All right, it's is when the last of your crops were harvested. A lot of times this feast was dedicated to Freyr. At least historically speaking. Now, when I'm speaking of things historically, that's where we're going to kind of backpedal a little bit and talk about just where we find or where we know of historical instances of when Winter Nights was observed. So, Winter Nights is an Old Norse veternotter. It's kind of falls in the same lines as an even older feast or an even older holiday, one that's actually attested to in the old sagas called Alfarblot. Alright, so these are two holidays that will typically fall somewhere around the same time of year, looking at middle to end of October. They're sometimes observed differently by different heathens. Sometimes the holiday that is called Winter Nights is the same as called Alfarblot, depending on, like I said, what heathen you're speaking to at the time. But so, historically speaking, in some of the legendary sagas of Norway, of Norse, of not just Norway, but Scandinavian sagas, okay, the mention of winter nights is spoken of more or less in a way that describes the passing of a season to another season. All right, it doesn't really necessarily focus on it being a holiday type of observance. In the sagas, it's mentioned that it took place before the colonization of Iceland, so we're looking somewhere around the 13th or 14th centuries. Okay, and like I said, the term was used to mainly describe the waning of summer and autumn and to welcome in the winter months. Okay, now in Snorri's Ynglinga saga, the Saga of the Ynglings, there are three major festivals or holidays or high feasts, whatever you want to call them, that are mentioned, okay? You have one that's at the beginning of winter, which is what we're looking at right now, so what many people would refer to as Winter Nights, or what is attested to in Ynglinga Saga as Alfarblot, okay? You have one at the beginning of the winter to hope for a good year. One at the beginning, one in the middle of winter, which is what we look at as, I think, the Yule celebrations. You're kind of midway through the winter, and you're starting to see light come back, and things are starting to change from the winter, getting into the more growing season months. And then you have one in the summer months, like Summer's Day, Sigurdsboat, some of these other names. We're going to look at a couple calendars here in just a second. I'm going to show you what we're talking about by some of these different names and these holidays. All right, so for most modern heathens, I've noticed anyway, what typically tends to be a more popular thing and a more popular, trendier approach to the holidays is the Winter Night celebration. It's usually observed at the beginning of the winter months, and that's, like I said, between the middle to end of October. Now, we're going to look at two different calendars. The first one is a calendar that probably a lot of us have seen online. I'm going to show the folks down here on Facebook first. All right, and then for the YouTube friends. What you're looking at here is a calendar that's kind of based off of the Wiccan calendar wheel, wheel of the year, so to speak. And you have all these different names for different holidays. Winter Night, which is going to be around Halloween. You've got the Juleblot, you've got the Disablot, you've got Ostarblot, you've got Walpurgisnacht, you've got Midsummer, Fairy Foxy, Houseblot, and so on, okay? This is a calendar, this is something that's, like I said, again, focused or based off of a Wiccan, wheel of the year, so to speak. What we look at here in this image, or in this graphic, is your more traditional heathen calendar, which is a lunar-based calendar. And as you can see, here YouTube, as you can see by this one, there's going to be more, or less rather, there's less actual events indicated of celebration for the year. Now, if you go online, just that way you don't have to zoom in on these images, if you go online and you just search traditional heathen calendar or heathen holidays, you'll find this image comes up. All right, so Alfarblot, again, this what his area is one of the three major sacrifices mentioned in the Ynglinga Saga, okay? It's a more private holiday where families come together to honor Frey and celebrate the harvest. Which, again, is something similar with Winter Nights. What's celebrated a lot of times is, thanking the Lord of the Harvest, thanking Yngve Frey for the bountiful harvest of the year. So again, some of the actions that are carried out at this time of year reflect and are mirroring a lot of the same things. All right, you're dedicating the service, or you're dedicating the feast or the bloat to Frey, Freyr, same thing, and the Landvitir. Okay, the Landvitir, the land wights, the land spirits, who have a lot to do with how the land is and how much we get from the land. If they're happy, if they're satisfied, if they're being honored, we'll get better things from the land. These are all forces, these are all things that are looked at and observed and revered during this particular feast, or this particular holiday, if you will, okay? So again, it's marking a turning of a year, or turning the time of year from a time of plenty, when there's harvest and there's plenty of things to have. We're transitioning now from that time of year to a time where it's bleak and scarce, and things are they're not producing anymore. So we look inward to our homes, to our families, to our immediate kin in this time of year, because this is when we need each other the most from a historical aspect, okay? Now, like I said, for some heathens, like for instance myself, this past weekend I chose to observe Alfarblot rather than a Winter Nights sort of approach, okay? Alfarblot is focusing more on like the male ancestral spirits, Freyr, the Landvitir. These, you know, like I said, similar things, but just from a more historical point, historical connection. Alfarblot tends to be something that is more accurate. Okay. Again, how you see or how you experience, if it's a feast or a bloat, if you're conducting one or a part of one yourself, you know, they're going to vary based on not just the individual, but if it's a tribal thing, if it's something that is done with a tribe, of course, it's going to be something unique to that tribe or to that kindred. So it's never going to always be the same. You may, you know, again, depending on how involved you may be with anyone's celebration or with anyone's holiday that observes this, you're going to see some similarities, you're going to see some differences, okay? And that's pretty much with anything. When it comes to like heathenry and how certain things are observed, it's a lot of it's based off of whether you're an individual doing it or whether you're in a kindred or the tribe that's doing it, so on and so forth. For me personally, my bloat, you know, without going into a great bit of detail, I had somebody asking me, you know, how do you decide what to do? How do you decide what, you know, what to place on your altar, or what do you know, sacrifice? What is your offering? This and that. You know, that's personal for the individual to kind of come up with. You know, for me, it was, I'm looking to my male ancestors. I'm looking to, you know, those of my male ancestral line who were a part of me in my life. So I'm looking at, you know, like my grandfathers and my uncles and cousins and things like that, and especially the ones who aren't, you know, obviously long gone, who I've never met. But, you know, the things that I offer, the things that I put on my altar are things that what I know of those people about and what I know that they would like, you know, things that I think that they would, you know, appreciate. My grandfather on my mother's side was 100% Italian, loved to cook, you know, so there was, you know, so I have some fresh garden produce that I've placed there with some Italian seasonings, you know, to put kind of a nod towards him. My dad's father, he smoked cigarettes and stuff for a long time, so there was, you know, tobacco. You know, so there's different things, you know. I look at it as what you place on your altar is going to depend on who and what you're trying to reach and what you're trying to, you know, what results you're trying to get, you know, and just be sincere about it. And I say this to anybody who asks me, you know, how do I do this? How do I do that? And I'm like, you don't really need to ask me how to heathen or how to do anything. I can give you ideas or things to think about, but ultimately you should do what feels right for you. And if it's sincere and if it's done in a genuine manner, the spirits that you're trying to conduct, you know, this ritual with, whether it's the land spirits, whether it's your ancestors, whether it's the gods themselves, they will recognize the sincerity behind your deeds and behind your actions, and, you know, it should be well met and well received. Like I said yesterday with my wife, you know, just did a small private bloat for the occasion, and it was well met. I knew immediately afterwards, you know, that it was well met. You'll feel things, you'll see things, you maybe will hear things, whatever. You'll get some sort of physical indication, or maybe not physical. And this is all my. I'm not saying that if you don't feel anything, you did it wrong or whatever the case may be. That's really up to you to kind of connect with your gods and with the deities yourself. But I know when I do something that's met well, I get a feeling about it, whether it's a physical feeling or whether it's a, you know, subconscious feeling or something lets me know that this was good and it was well received. So anyways, guys, Winter Nights is upon us. Alfarblot is upon us. Whatever it is you are doing as a heathen now to observe these, you know, celebrations for this time of year, definitely let us know. Everybody that watches this channel and that tunes in here on Facebook, we all have different things that we meet and discuss on how we do certain things. So it's a learning process for all of us. Drop a comment down below with how you observe the Winter Nights or Alfarblot season, if you so choose. Would love to hear about it. Don't forget to become a subscriber. Right up here, you're going to see the Midgard Musings floating logo. If you click on that logo, you become a subscriber, and then once you do that, make sure that you have bell notifications turned on so you're notified every time I upload new content so you don't miss anything. Everybody down here watching on Facebook, stick around so I can check the comments and read what everyone is saying. Everyone here on YouTube, thank you so much for watching. If you want to become a part of what I do here every Sunday night, just follow the links down in the description for the Facebook page. Become a follower and join me every Sunday night at 7 o'clock Central Standard Time. Stick around, guys. We'll see you all next week in the next video. Thank you, and hail.